Good evening, everyone. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 5th Annual Boston EdTalks. My name is Elizabeth Pauley. I'm a Senior Director here for Education to Career, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening. I should tell you, this is our 5th time doing the Boston EdTalks, and it represents a first in a number of ways. First, this is the closest to 6 o'clock we've ever started, so thank you to all of you for being here and taking your seats and allow us to get right underway. Second, we have a record-setting crowd tonight. So I have a second thank you to all of you for coming out to join us as we recognize and celebrate teachers, the amazing teachers in Greater Boston during National Teacher Appreciation Week. And the third way this is different is you might notice we have no podium, and that was my foolish idea. And so this evening, we'll see great presentations, free form, no podium, and I think it'll be lots of fun for everyone. I see lots of friends in the audience, folks who are well familiar with the Boston Foundation. But for those of you who may be visiting us for the first time, I'd like to tell you that we are Greater Boston's community foundation. We were founded in 1915, and we are one of the largest and oldest community foundations in the country. We serve as a major funder for regional nonprofit organizations, a philanthropic partner to individuals, other foundations and corporations, and a convener and civic leader. So in our 101 years, we've been proud to put on a number of shows, and I have to admit, this is my favorite evening of the year. As part of our work, education is one of our highest priorities. In education, we strive to ensure that the students in Greater Boston have access to the education that will prepare them to succeed in our region and thrive as our neighbors. So we invest in K-12 and higher education. As part of that work, we are very committed to the work of teachers, and we're delighted to celebrate them annually through this event. We also partner closely with teachers through what we call our Teacher Advisory Board. So about 5 years ago, we established this Teacher Advisory Board with representatives from district schools, charter schools, and Catholic schools from Boston and the surrounding towns. And we meet with those teachers monthly to hear about their perspective on current issues in education. As the leader of our education work, I can unequivocally tell you that this grounds our work in practice and the real challenges and opportunities that face teachers and students today. If you are a member of the Boston Foundation's Teacher Advisory Board, would you please stand now and be recognized? Thank you. Tonight we will hear 6 presentations that this group of teachers who just stood were instrumental in selecting. In the fall, we put out a call for proposals, asking teachers in our region to submit innovative ideas and solutions that they've found to address issues and challenges in their classrooms. The teachers who will be presenting applied, had to present their talk to our Teacher Advisory Board, and were selected from a very competitive pool. I think you'll see a wide range of topics that are very important to education today, and here's the list of them behind me. Without too much more from me, I'm going to invite up, before we get started, a 10th grade teacher from Malden High School. Her name is Abby Dick. She teaches English. She's going to join us twice this evening. But her first talk is going to be very important for all of you because it's going to involve all of you. So without further ado from me, I'd like to turn the mic over to Abby Dick.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. So, as Elizabeth just said, I'm going to see you again about halfway through the presentations. This is a great time of year for a lot of reasons, but mostly for us as teachers because we're all planning our vacations. Some of us will be going to the Cape, some will be binge watching Netflix, some will be laying out by the pool, but I know that I have the best vacation plans of anyone. I'm going to be scoring the AP exams. So I teach AP Language, which is an English course, and my students are taking the exam next week, and all of those exams need to be scored. So that means that thousands of teachers and college professors will descend upon beautiful, exotic Kansas City, Missouri. So our exam is the largest exam that the College Board offers. So we have about 1.6 million essays that we need to score in 7 days. So it's much more work than vacation, but it's very rewarding. So the last time I was at the AP reading, I wanted to see if people were talking about what was happening at the event. So I went to Twitter, because that is where people talk about what's going on. And I wanted to look up hashtag AP reading just to see if other teachers there were tweeting about their experiences. So Twitter is great for teachers for a lot of reasons, and teachers are really embracing Twitter. It's free, which is fantastic for us. It's open 24/7, so we can do PD in the morning before school and after school in our pajamas. It's very short, 140 characters. It's very low stress. It's high engagement, because depending on who you follow, that's the information that you get. And the most important part to me is that it's personalized. So I can seek out the organizations and authors and different educational groups that I like. So at the AP reading, indeed, people were talking on Twitter at hashtag AP reading and talking about the essays they were scoring and the restaurants they'd been to. And people were talking about AP language, my subject. And we talked about how we don't have a dedicated Twitter chat for our subject group. So we started hashtag AP Lang chat. And we get together on Wednesdays, a group of about 15 to 20 dedicated teachers. We all go online at the same time, and we discuss our subject area, what we're teaching, what we're thinking, struggles that we're having, and it's been a great little community. The way a Twitter chat works traditionally, if you do one on your own, is that someone comes up with questions for the evening to guide the conversation, and then everyone who's following along with the chat answers those questions. The most important thing, if you're new to Twitter, or even if you're really into Twitter, is to grow your PLN, which is your personal learning network. These are the groups of people that you follow and the organizations, so that you get the content that you are looking for. So if you're brand new to Twitter and you join tonight and you follow 10 people and you're disappointed because you're not getting a bunch of great information, you got to build the people that you're following so you have your own online community. So that is where tonight comes in. Everyone tonight should tweet to the hashtag Boston EdTalks. So this works in a couple ways. Everyone received a handout that was on their seat when they came in, explaining how to do this. When you tweet about tonight's presentations in the program, if you put hashtag Boston EdTalks in your tweets, then everyone who's here can see what you're saying. So things that would be appropriate would be like shout outs or observations or questions or something you're excited about. Another way to just follow along is to, in the search string, just put hashtag Boston EdTalks, and then you can see what other people are saying about tonight's event. So thank you very much. Enjoy the presentations, and see you on Twitter.
Thank you. Thanks, Abby. I'm a relative Twitter novice myself, and so before I met Abby, it hadn't occurred to me that you could be using Twitter to do more than just complain about the MBTA, but actually for professional development. So while at other events, they might tell you to put away your phones, we're telling you take out your phones and tweet. It is now my pleasure to invite our MC for the evening up to join me. His name is Jeremy Collier, and he is a kindergarten through 5th grade music teacher at Up Academy Holland. I first met Jeremy when we both attended an Elevating and Celebrating Effective Teachers in Teaching, or ESET2, conference in January in San Diego. And I think once you meet him, as I did, you will know why we decided we had to have him as our MC. So Jeremy, please join me and take us through the evening.
Thank you. Thank you. But you should really be clapping for yourself. And I know that Elizabeth said there was a lot of firsts going on in the room. And this is going to be a first too for Boston EdTalks. Go ahead and take your last sip of water, your last sip of wine, because everyone's going to stand to their feet and sing. Jill, Kahane, Anjali, you know what I do. No, but over here you're laughing, but I'm serious. Just kidding. I'm not going to make you stand to your feet and sing yet. maybe later, so get ready. We're here because we're celebrating innovative teaching. And one of the things that I was just walking around in the Mixamingo and I was just like, wow, we're here to celebrate innovative teachers, but we're all here for the same reason. Every single person in this room is passionate about education. There's so much innovation that is going to happen beyond this room. So please hashtag tweet about innovation in the Boston EdTalks. Before we get started, over the past couple weeks, I've been thinking about innovation. So let's talk about innovation for a little bit. What are the characteristics of an innovative teacher, school leader? I love that I can drop a dime in here. That's amazing. I wish I could get that kind of engagement out of my K2 scholars at 3 o'clock. But you gave it to me right now, and I'm like feeling really important. Thank you. Innovative teachers are problem solvers. They're presented with a problem in their practice, and before you know it, the wheels start spinning and the light bulbs come on. I use a lot of ASL in my teaching. Epiphany. Innovative teachers are problem solvers. They're always thinking about the solutions. You're going to hear about that tonight. But what if the problems they can't be easily solved? Their solutions aren't immediate. I think that is more true to what an innovative teacher is. An innovative teacher shows grit, perseverance. Like Einstein, a lot of us think that he was so genius and uber talented, but really, he didn't read until he was 7 years old. He didn't speak until he was 4. He was able to sit with his problems, which allowed him to innovate. Innovative teachers are super great at sitting with their problems. They are resilient. What you're going to hear tonight is that innovative teachers see the possibility in the impossible. Where everything in life says, no, you can't grow, you can't develop, you can't learn. Innovative teachers see the solution because they've been there before. They've sat with problems before. They've gotten gritty. They've demonstrated perseverance. Innovative teachers are resilient, and because of that, they encourage our students to grow and flourish. Innovative teachers are resilient. Picture this. Most people around you think the world is flat. Most people around you think that if we go too far east or too far west, we might just go off the edge of the earth. This was many people's mindset not too long ago. Well, maybe a couple hundred years. But this was the mindset. And when I think about an innovative teacher, I think about the explorer, the navigator, the discoverer. Innovative teachers are risk takers. They say, oh, that's not too far. I'll flirt with the edge and go there because my students deserve that. Innovative teachers are risk takers. But occasionally, what if your calculated risks lead you to an uncharted foreign place? We've all been there, 10 and 2, you're in traffic in the middle of Boston and saying, please make a U-turn, and you're like, but where? But in that moment, just like this guy, we still see the possibilities. We reflect, and we're able to say, oh, it's not about the failures. It's not about the success. It's about the failures. The failures are actually a part of the process. Innovative teachers are constant learners. They don't see failure as a mistake. They see it as a first opportunity for them to learn what can actually push their students towards achievement. So they flirt with the edge. They fail. They try. They fail. They try. They fail. Kind of like science. Innovative teachers are constant learners. I was in the cocktail hour just a second ago, and I spoke to Miriam. Can you stand up? There she is. She didn't know I was going to put her on the spot, but I'm a man for putting people on the spot. And I might put you on the spot to sing, so be ready. But Miriam, I said, describe Abby for us. And she said, she and her brother said she's unconventional. She pushes us to think independently. She takes us to the next level. She doesn't tell us by rote what to do. She challenges us to think and be innovative ourselves. And because of that, she said, what's one word that describes Mystic, Miriam? She said creative. Part of the presentation. Innovative teachers, thank you so much, Miriam, are creative. They think outside of the box. They color the world the color they choose to color the world. Innovative teachers are creative. You're going to hear about so much creativity this evening. And like Abby just showed us, instead of just finding the solution and being very content with, oh, I've mastered it on my island. This is my classroom, my content, my school, my district. I'm content with being the greatest. No, actually, innovative teachers realize, because they're humble, because they're gracious, that they need to share that knowledge. So they collaborate with others. They are collaborative. Innovative teachers are extremely collaborative. So hashtag share all the things you learned tonight. Hashtag be connected. I'm trying to throw up the hashtags with the clicker and the mic, if you didn't catch that. Hashtag share, be collaborative, stay connected with the people in the room, because that's why we're here. And lastly, this is my view every morning at 7:15. And every morning, just like your every morning, wherever your morning routine is, whether you're listening to NPR or you are wiping down your whiteboard or you are calling a student to remind that student to come to school, whatever your morning routine is, first thing in the morning, I'm reminded of my why I teach. I've been reminded about that why I teach with every single conversation I've had this evening, by every presentation that I've seen in advance of this evening's presentations. Innovative teachers are grounded in their why. They're passionate because our kids show up every morning. They're waiting for us at the door. They're waiting for innovation. They're waiting for something new. They're ready to learn. They're ready for their teachers to think outside of the box. And we have so many passionate teachers who are going to share with you their innovation tonight. I'm going to skip past the recap because you're going to get that, and I'm going to tie it together over and over and over again throughout this evening. Without further ado, I love to bring to the stage the first set of innovative teachers to share and grow our brains. And up first, we have Mike and Jeff, who are going to share with you about problem solving.
Thanks, Jeremy. Hi, everybody. We made it. It's EdTalks. Welcome. Before we started, I just wanted to say, I know you're going to be very busy Twittering and so on, and you have probably a drink still or something, but if you would like to, in an old school way, to show your affinity or connection with something we say, you can do it the way we do at the Edward Everett in 3rd grade, which is it's called shake the coyote, right? So, or whatever, you 2 fingers and you shake it. Or if you want to do like Jeff's class, you can be like, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. So anyway, I'm Mike.
And I'm Jeff. And we teach at the Everett Elementary School in Dorchester. Our school is a level 3 Boston public school with students at all different skill levels and a wide range of needs. We have amazing teachers, students, families, but we've always struggled with test scores, so we're constantly looking for room to grow. 2 years ago, in developing a math goal, we noticed that students had no idea what to do when attacking more complicated problems. We got a lot of blank or incomplete responses that didn't begin to answer the question. We also saw a lot of random strategies, like adding two numbers they saw together, or students would write us notes saying, I have no idea what to do. Other students didn't take the time to show their thinking or their work, so guess what? We had no idea what they did. Problems that required a higher level of thinking created a lot of frustration and confusion during math time, and a lot of confused faces. We knew we had to do something. We couldn't take the faces any longer. We had to begin with a fundamental change in how students think about math. As a class, we discussed these norms in order to reinforce the concepts of growth mindset, effective effort, and problem solving. For growth mindset, students must believe they can do it. They must realize that it is going to take hard work or effort and know they have the problem-solving skills to do it. If they don't, we are doomed before we ever begin. But the most successful shift in our students' thinking took place when we came up with a strategy that gives them a way to attack the problem and provides a structured problem-solving process. We use the acronym RUAMSC for read, underline, answer frame, model, solve, and check. In order to help the kids remember, we asked the question, are you a math-solving champion? It's fun, it's corny, and usually the students get a scream, yeah!
Remember that. Okay, so we believe that this acronym is not only easy to remember, but it's also different from other problem-solving templates that we've used before because of its flexibility. It gives students an organized structure for their thinking rather than teaching a procedure for solving different types of problems.
So, up next we have some exclusive interviews from students at the Everett to explain this process.
Excuse me, Javon. Yeah? Can you please tell the camera, what does R mean?
Mean?
Is that it? That's all you have to say about R? R is for?
Read the question.
Okay. That's Javon. So the first step is obvious, right? They have to read the problem. But we're encouraging them to use all their close reading strategies that they've learned, such as visualizing, solving words in context, and so on, so that they get a pretty decent understanding of what's going on in the problem.
Samuel, I need to know, what does you mean?
You means underline the important information.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So after they read the problem, they must read it again and underline only the important information. We train them to look for language that shows the action of the problem, where they're starting, what they're doing with it, and so on.
Amia, I need to know, what does A stand for?
Answer frame.
And what does the answer frame mean, Amia?
It's a sentence with the blank to plug in the answer.
Thank you so much. You've been a big help.
Okay. So we really think that this answer frame is a key step. We have them write it first because it focuses the kids on what they're looking for. It's that missing quantity that's represented by the blank in the sentence they write. And it's also a really great entry into teaching about variables because later on that blank is going to become a letter in an algebraic equation.
Isaiah, please tell me, what does M stand for?
M stands for model, and for, like, when you make an equation, you start your model first so you can get ready to solve.
So for this problem, the student modeled their thinking with an equation. We also teach them other models, such as drawing a picture, making a chart, or using a number line. The goal is that eventually students choose the most efficient strategy, but also the strategy that helps them best understand the problem. This is where the flexibility and focus on comprehension is built into the acronym. It allows different students to engage with the same problem at different levels, using very different-looking models.
Solomon, I need to know, what does S stand for?
S stands for solving the problem.
And what is solving the problem? What does that mean? What do you have to do?
That means you have to figure out a way to complete the problem.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so solving, obviously most times it's referring to computation or otherwise working your way through your model to come up with an answer. We like to separate this from the model because a student whose model doesn't match the problem probably didn't understand it completely, whereas somebody who broke down at the solving step may just need support with number sense or computation.
Diane, I have a question for you.
Yeah?
What does C stand for?
Check.
And And what does that mean?
You have to check your work.
And finally, the step that every teacher would love for their students to do, check their work. To make this doable, we have them read through the answer frame, and also we've modeled how to go through their computation step by step in their head. If it gets done, we will never know. So I'm sure you're all experts after that quick overview. Just know that this process has taken a lot of explicit teaching and practice in order to get it really ingrained in the students' minds.
But once we did get it ingrained in their mind, we saw amazing progress in our classes. And we really wanted to leverage all this newfound confidence that the students had in a more collaborative way. So in the second year, working with BPS inquiry coach Jonathan Hassick, we developed a student coaching protocol. And we spent a lot of time teaching kids how to be coaches, how to coach their peers by listening to their thinking and by questioning them. So we're going to show you a video here. In this video, you're going to see what we call a mathlete, somebody who's still working on the problem, change both the shape of her rectangle and also her equation after some thoughtful questioning by her coach.
I'm the mathlete, and my job is to correct my work and answer the questions that the coach asks me. I'm the coach, and my job is to ask questions so the mathlete can understand, so she or he can fix their work. So what I did was I made a rectangle, and I did 3 on one side, and then I did 6 on the top. So over here it says you got 24, but I'm not sure if this part over here. I have a question, like, why does that, I'm not sure if that equals 24. Because it says over here, Mare also drew a rectangle. Mare's rectangle has the same area as Jay's rectangle. So I'm actually kind of confused. So I think what I should do to fix my problem is to do 3 times blank equals 24. 3 times 8 equals 24. So the 24 equal is the same as the one Jay got? Yeah. So what's our answer? 8. Yep.
So we really love this peer coaching for a number of reasons, but mostly because it gets the kids thinking about their thinking, valuing the skill of problem solving, and calling the students who are still working on the problem a cool name like mathletes. We're trying to emphasize that we really value the work that they're doing, the revision, the rethinking, the refining. Also, we like that the coaches, who are often our most able math students, often struggle to put their words into thinking or questions, and so it's a challenging process for everybody involved. So I know that there's people out there today that get super pumped about data, and so we've got some good news, right? We've got some good news from the Edward Everett. So over the past 3 years in grade 3, in the PARCC and the MCAS test, the students scoring at level 3 or better have increased by over 50%. We also reached a milestone in 2014, which was the first year we implemented this, where our average open response scores for the first time exceeded the average for the state. I told you, I knew that they were out there, the data. Right, and then finally, one last piece of data is that our CPI, or as we call it in the trade, our Composite Performance Index, which used to always be way below the state, now tracks it pretty closely. So we're excited about the data, totally. We love it. But we're more excited about the inspiring change in attitude that we see in our students.
How I think math is cool because Are You Math Solving Champion can keep you in order in the problem so you don't get confused. At first I did not like math, and now I do like math.
So Isabella puts it better than we ever could. And there's many others that feel the same way. This has been a radical shift for our students in the way they think and feel about themselves as mathematicians. Just the confidence that has been built through this process makes anything we try to teach more effective. It has increased students' motivation and their willingness to stick with the work when things get challenging. So, why is this important? Well, you may have noticed that math has changed a bit since we went to school. The biggest and most frequent complaint I get from parents is that they have no idea what I'm teaching their third grader because they learn the same math concepts in a completely different way. Where once it was important to be able to follow a procedure in order to get the answer quickly, now we have computers that do all of that work for us instantly. Our checking accounts are balanced digitally, our taxes are calculated by software. We need to train the students to be flexible and creative thinkers because they're going to have to program the computers to do the work for us. In order to get 8-year-olds to do this, we had to change their thinking about learning. It is a necessary change because the world has changed. And believe me, there's still plenty to be done.
So we just want to encourage everybody that's here tonight to start to notice all the math problem solving that goes on in your daily world. And please, for any of the children in your life, share that conversation with them. We want to ask you to check out our resources, especially if you're a teacher, on the EdTalks blog that we've posted. And we're going to just leave you with the thoughts of Leilani and Amaya, who we think beautifully express our message to you tonight. Math is challenging, and it's confusing, and it makes you learn. But it's worth it because math is everywhere. So the question is,
are you a math-solving champion?
I don't know about you, but I just wish I had math teachers like that when I was in elementary school. I feel like I would be such a better problem solver today as an adult. Really, really amazing, creative way to approach and tackle a problem. And their students now are going to take that with them for the rest of their lives. And up next, we have Colleen Labby, who's going to share with you all about social emotional learning.
I was so excited to begin teaching kindergarten. I love teaching students how to read, write stories, and to get along with one another. What I was not prepared for, however, were the number of students who faced behavioral challenges. Take James. James was an adorable, hysterically funny 5-year-old who loved telling stories about superheroes and playing with blocks and Legos, but he would also knock books off of their shelves, throw chairs, kick, bite, scream, and the worst, run away, right out of my classroom door. In creating a safe and supportive environment for all of my young learners, I had many routines and structures already in place. But when it came to James, ultimately, I would end up having to call for help. He would either run away or his behavior would escalate to a point where I would have to press a button and an administrator would come to remove him from my classroom. This, of course, was not a solution. It contributed to lost instructional time, and more importantly, James was learning how to let those strong emotions get the best of him rather than learn how to deal with those emotions. But then I read The Purple Book. Although the title of the book is called Helping Traumatized Children Learn, it has fondly come to be known as simply The Purple Book. As part of our professional development, the kindergarten team worked with the Dean of Students to address how to support the needs of our children who are facing the greatest challenges, including homelessness, loss of a parent, and the effects of living in poverty. We began reading the book as part of our PD, and I learned about how trauma can affect learning and behavior. One thing in particular stood out for me. Simple accommodations, such as creating a safe space or peace corner in the classroom, can help children regulate their emotions. So I created the Think Space. It's a place in my classroom where students can go when they're angry or upset, or if they just need to take a break. This is how it started. It started with a desk and some writing materials, and I would ask students to draw how they were feeling. But then I noticed some of my students could not identify how they were feeling. So along with some lessons, I added a feelings poster and more pictures to remind students of things that we were practicing together in our classrooms, like taking deep breaths to calm down. I was just doing that 5 minutes ago. I added materials that we were using in the classroom to practice positive self-talk. Some of us don't need help in that area. She's literally kissing her face. And students began to go there, and they started to make connections. The school social worker made us some glitter bottles to help us with calming down. We added Play-Doh, stress balls, books, paper to tear, until we had a pretty cool place to go. And soon it wasn't just me suggesting kids visit the Think Space. I remember when one student, while seeing another student have a tantrum, say, maybe you just need to go take a break. And of course, students started making suggestions. One student said they needed something to hug, so we got Rocco the raccoon. They named him. The most amazing thing to see was that the Think Space had become part of our classroom, just like the guided reading area and our morning meeting spot. The children also knew that this was not a place for punishment. They were learning how to manage their feelings and their behaviors and how to process their emotions. They were also learning that these skills were important and expected, just like learning to read. Take a look at the difference the Think Space has made in my classroom. Last year, before I introduced the Think Space, I spent 2 weeks tracking the number of outbursts that these 3 students had. Then I spent several weeks teaching strategies to the whole class, along with learning how to use the Think Space. And after these 3 students started using the Think Space, I spent another 2 weeks tracking the number of outbursts each of these students had. As you can see, the number of outbursts decreased by an average of 40%. It works. It really works. But I think it's best if you hear it from my students.
Think Space is a place where you can calm down.
Where is it?
It's all the way next to table 4.
Think Space is about when you're sad and you're angry and you can't calm down. You have to go to the think space so you can calm down and relax. And then when you're ready, you can come back to the rugby.
You can draw, or you can squish the squishy ball, or you can use the glitter tube.
Will you show me the glitter tube? That is really cool. Does that help you calm down sometimes?
Uh-huh.
And then what happens after you feel better, after you spend a little time in the Think Space?
When you're feeling better, and then you can come to the rug to join your friend. I squeeze your ball, and then I count. 10, 3. I like squishing the ball. I like to draw feelings.
And it has Rocco, so you can hug him and you can kiss him in the nose because he's so soft and because you like him and you love him.
Squeeze the ball, and then when you feel better, you can go right back to work.
And how does it make you feel?
Very happy.
I know, I'm so in love with them. The Think Space is just one way that we can address what children need to feel safe, connected to school, and to learn how to self-regulate. Every classroom in my school has a Think Space. And many, many teachers use similar strategies. And there's a growing consensus around the importance of social emotional learning and trauma-sensitive practices. But what's different about the Think Space is where it is, in the classroom. When we make space for social emotional learning in our classrooms, we signal that social emotional learning matters, that these skills are just as important as learning how to read, write, and become a mathematician. And research tells us that teaching these skills early on fosters resilience and can help build the foundation for a healthy and happy life. Thank you.
Keep clapping for Colleen. I'm gonna put it to the test right now. Everyone breathe in a rose and blow out a bubble. All the way down to Boylston Street. Breathe in a rose from the Common and blow out a bubble. Wow, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a whole lot better. Hashtag, I'm gonna go create a think space to help keep me in the zone. Next up, we're gonna get a nice credo on what we believe in. Everyone's going to be rejuvenated by their passionate purpose by our next set of speakers. Welcome to the stage, Alice Larimore from the Lilia G. Frederick Pilot School. Oh, sorry. Breathe in a rose, blow out a bubble. Going back to my calm down zone. Marcus, Catherine, Katie, Randall, welcome them to the stage. They're gonna give us a credit.
My name is Katie Ramone, and I'm an 8th grade math teacher at the Gardner Pilot Academy in Alston. I teach writing in my math class because I believe that all students deserve a command of the language of power and should be writers in all contents. I know that it will take more than me, one teacher, to make my students into the powerful writers that our world needs. I cannot do this work alone. And so I found a team of teachers to do this work with me, the Writing is Thinking team. We believe that when a team of teachers aligns around a set of fine-tuned foundational beliefs, that team builds powerful, intentional, teacher-driven collaboration. Our team, comprised of the 7 teachers you see on the screen, are diverse in content, experience, pedagogy, and teaching styles. But we are similar in that we hold the same set of foundational beliefs, and that is what makes this work. We believe that all teachers are writing teachers. We believe all students are writers in all contents. We believe writing experiences and opportunities must be deliberately planned. We believe writing is not only a form of assessment, but a learning tool through which students deepen understanding. And we believe all students deserve a command of the language of power.
So the 5 of us knew each other through various professional channels, but the first time that we came together as the Writing is Thinking team was at the 2015 Teach to Lead conference right here in our city. And at that conference, we really hashed out our what and our why. So we talked about what exactly we wanted to accomplish as a team and why we were sitting at the table. In other words, our foundational beliefs. And the answers to those questions are still what drives our work today.
To propel this work forward, our team meets twice a month on our own time because this is the professional development that makes us better. We ground ourselves at the beginning of each meeting by reading our foundational beliefs aloud. During this time together, We collaboratively look at student work, read current research that fuels our pedagogical discussions, and we plan and organize professional development. Just this past week, this collaboration led our team to receive a grant from the Gates Foundation for $28,000. So we will be organizing our own conference this coming fall to celebrate and elevate teachers of English language learners. It is without a doubt that this collaboration elevates professional practice. Tonight we're going to share with you 3 examples of teacher innovation supported by our alignment around foundational beliefs across contents, from home to school, and across Boston neighborhoods.
Because we believe that all teachers are writing teachers and that all students are writers in every content area, we work together to increase the rigor of our curricula, and we aligned around common writing standards in both of our classrooms.
The goal of this novel engineering project was for students to use the steps of the engineering process they had been learning about in science to solve one of the challenges faced by a protagonist in our class novel, A Long Walk to Water. The challenges that the characters in this text face are very relevant to our world today. For example, lack of access to clean drinking water and the myriad obstacles that one faces when they have to flee home as a refugee.
But who better to tell you about the gains from this project than the students themselves?
We began by using evidence from a text to get to know our client.
Then we selected the most important challenge our client faced in a novel and analyzed how our client addressed this challenge in the text.
We brainstormed, researched, and designed solutions that would have a maximum impact for our client and the people of Southern Sudan.
We collaboratively built prototypes that brought our designs to life.
We tested and redesigned our prototypes as we built to ensure that our prototypes reflected our real-life solutions.
Finally, we showcased our solutions at our celebration of writing event, including
a solar-powered taser to protect the lost boys from dangerous wild animals,
a water filter that can be made from commonly recycled materials,
and the scrap frog, a shoe made from recycled materials that grows with the child who wears it, to name a few.
We hope our work inspires you to use engineering to solve real-world challenges, because if a little girl like Naya doesn't have to walk 8 hours a day to get clean drinking water,
she can go to school
and grow up to be the woman she dreams of becoming.
And her country will be a little better for it.
And so will our world.
Because we believe that writing experiences and opportunities must be deliberately planned, we, along with community partners, organized Expresiones, a celebration of writing, in which classrooms across every content showcase student writing. Families were able to gain strategies and tools by which they can reinforce writing expectations at home. And this event illuminated for families how writing in science and math may look different than writing in ELA, but similar in the fundamental writing expectations.
So, for example, in the 6th grade classroom, when I had kids come in for the ELA course, families interviewed their children. In this picture, it's hard to tell who's the teacher, who's the parent. In some cases, it's hard to tell who the student, the teacher, and the parent are. And this was done on purpose. Families were interviewing their students so they can understand how 5th grade writing changes once they get to 6th grade. What is the expectation in middle school? And this conversation is important so that the families can support their children at home. While they were having these conversations, and some parents were sitting there like, oh, wow, I circulated as a sharer, to give my 2 cents, but I also circulated as a listener to understand where families were coming from. In the 7th grade math classroom, you see a picture of 2 parents laughing as they realize how different math is in 2016 and how difficult it is for a 7th grader. You see that the teacher is laughing along with them as they remember, I'm actually sending this kid home with a lot of work, and it's difficult for a parent to help them from time to time.
So these collaborative conversations were important so that we could support children together as a community. And these candid moments were planned. They didn't happen by chance, because we know when we plan events for families and children, we see success.
Because we believe that writing is not only a form of assessment, but a learning tool through which students deepen their knowledge, our block-to-block project is based on students deepening their engagement in reading through a pen pal letter exchange. How many of you in this room are teachers who've tried independent reading in your own classroom? And how many of you are parents who have kids who come home every night with an independent reading log to be signed? Fabulous. Then many of you are probably all too familiar with the questions that Alice and I have wrestled with as ELA teachers. How do we get our kids engaged in independent reading in a sustainable way? How do we authentically assess what they're learning without taking away the magic of reading? And how do we move kids from book to book with gusto? Out of these questions, we devised a potential solution: 7th grade pen pals. Our students write back and forth once a month between Gardner Pilot in Alston and the Frederick Pilot in Dorchester about their independent reading books and what's happening in their own personal lives.
And even though we started this year, so far we've seen such increased engagement from our students. It looks like when you walk into my classroom on letter day, kids are banging on the desk and I shout, "Mail call!" And then I call their names, they jump up, they grab their letters, they rip them open, and they're so excited to see what their pen pal has written to them, just for them. And they're also asking me questions like, "Miss Larimore, I'm so mad. I really wanted to know how Armani's book ended and he didn't write about it." And so across the whole classroom, we see heightened engagement. But for particular students also, we're seeing heightened engagement in independent reading. And a great example of this is my student, Anasia. You see Anasia at the top picture looking like her very scholarly self, but more often Anasia is her Batman breakdancing self in the bottom picture. And this project really allows her academic self to shine through. And you can see it in the pages and pages that she writes to her pen pal Ilianis at the Gardner. So here's a little peek into one of her letters.
Dear Ilianis, I guess we're both 13 now, but it really does not feel like I'm 13. How about you? I'm reading this book called The Lonely Hearts Club. I love that book. I think you would like it because it's not only telling you that certain boys are a bad idea, but it also tells you that it's not good to have a boyfriend in elementary school, middle school, or high school, because they can throw you off work and stuff. But I don't want to throw opinions for everybody. What is your favorite book right now? I would really like to meet you someday. Sincerely, Anasia. P.S. I will add you on Kik like I said I would.
One of my proudest moments was watching my 7th graders present their writing to actual engineers at the end of the novel engineering project. What you guys didn't get a chance to see was how much I struggled as a teacher to prepare them for that moment. While I knew my science content, I really didn't know what a 7th grade writer should actually look like. So I was able to collaborate with this team, and we thought about writing, and they helped me advance my students so that they could write at the 7th grade level. Now, too often, professionals, as teachers, we are engaged in professional development that really gives us answers to questions we didn't ask. But writing this thing is a little bit different. This is what our professional development looks like. We have fun, but we were able to create a space in which we could bring genuine questions to the table and find answers that worked for us and our students. And this is what actually keeps us teaching.
So what if this is what professional development looked like for all teachers, where we could come into a space and ask authentic questions that we need answers to tomorrow, where we can feed our intellectual curiosity for one another? What if we had administrations that supported us in the way that our administration has supported us and all that we've done? How would that change the way that teachers walk into professional development and build it from the ground up? That's the question we have for you today.
So the Writing is Thinking team believes in these 5 foundational beliefs, but you don't have to believe them. And your collaborations do not have to look like our collaboration or sound like our collaboration. But whatever your collaboration is, we suggest that you spend time answering your what and your why and articulating those foundational beliefs. Collaboration built on well-articulated foundational beliefs cultivates innovation and yields gains for students, for families, and for teachers. So as you're out there percolating on all of your collaborations that you're going to go back to, we would suggest that you start by asking yourself, what do you believe? And maybe more importantly,
Who believes it with you?
We believe, we believe. We believe, we believe. This is a great time for that group song, so go ahead and clear your vocal cords. Be ready. No, just kidding. Turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor one thing that you believe in regards to education. 30 seconds, go. If you believe, snap once. If you believe in the power of education, snap 2 times. If you believe, clap once. If you believe in education, clap 2 times. Okay, I'm gonna have to take off my blazer and go to being the 3rd grade teacher in a second. Awesome. We do believe, and that's why there's a buzz in the room, but don't forget to continue to collaborate after you leave this room with the people that are in this room. Coming back to the stage, let's welcome Abby Dick, who's going to tell us more about professional development.
Okay, so it's really fun for all of us tonight to see teachers who are super fired up about education and to see students who are super excited about what they are learning. But unfortunately for a lot of teachers, for professional development, which is teacher learning, it looks something like this. So this picture is an exaggeration, but not necessarily by much. So professional development is when a teacher goes to a conference or when a teacher goes to a workshop or when you have a professional development day at your school where a consultant comes in to work with you. So all teachers refer to this time as PD. And I'm going to talk about some of the challenges of PD. So a recent study by the TNTP called The Mirage showed that only about 3 teachers in 10 feel that they are getting a lot out of the PD that they are receiving. So that means 30% of teachers feel inspired and feel like they're ready to improve their practice, whereas 7 out of 10, not necessarily so much. But what if I told you that excellent PD is available to teachers practically every Saturday somewhere in the world, and all you need to attend is a name tag, some Sharpies, and some tape. It's called EdCamp. Has anybody here ever been to an EdCamp? Fantastic. Okay, we have a few EdCampers here, so they should show their enthusiasm about the concept. Yeah, that's good. So EdCamp is really taking over professional development in a lot of places, especially in the United States, because it's such an engaging new way for teachers to enjoy professional development. So a lot of you, since you're not EdCampers, are asking yourselves, what is EdCamp? So EdCamp is an unconference. It's different from a traditional conference because it starts with a blank grid like this. There are times down the side and session locations at the top. So when you show up at an EdCamp, you don't know what you're going to be learning that day. The grid is blank. And I'm a very type A person, so the whole concept of going to an event where I don't know exactly what's going on was very scary. But I've been to dozens of EdCamps and they always work out. So what happens next is everybody who attends the Ed Camp is free to take Post-it notes and fill in the things that they would like to learn about. So you write down what you're interested in, you put it on a Post-it, and you throw it up on the grid. And then the grid is full, and the Ed Camp starts. Everybody's allowed to attend any session they want, and they move into the session rooms. So the first Ed Camp I ever went to was Ed Camp Grafton in 2014. I knew very little about what to expect. I just knew that the grid was open. So being a type A person, I prepared hard for this Ed Camp. I had a PowerPoint, I had handouts, I was super excited about my topic. I put it up on the grid, I went to the room, and I put on a show. And everyone looked at me like I was totally awkward. It was really embarrassing. And I was so awkward because I didn't understand the ethos of Ed Camp in that moment, which is that it is conversations, not presentations. It's not like a regular conference, it's quite different. So these are the rules that I learned. All are welcome. At an Ed Camp, you will see teachers, students, administrators, community members. It's totally free. Sponsors provide the food and the prizes for Ed Camp, so nobody has to pay anything. It's vendor free, which means you're not going to be in a session where someone's selling you something. The board is open to anyone who shows up. So if you attend the Ed Camp, you can put anything up on the board. And lastly, and most importantly for a lot of teachers, there's an element of choice. It's called vote with your feet. So if you're in a session that is not working for you, either it's not your subject area or it's just not what you thought it would be, you're totally free to get up and move to a different session, which is not like traditional PD. And that is how Ed Camp Malden was born. So I came back from Ed Camp Grafton, I found my principal and I said, I went to the coolest, most amazing, super fun teacher event this weekend. He said, how much does it cost? I said, nothing. He said, we're doing this. So we put it on the calendar and we're gonna have our third event this year. It's October 15th. Everybody write it down. It's totally free. Everybody in this room is invited. And so it's our third Ed Camp, and we're very excited about it. An important part of our Ed Camp is that students are involved. So students help set the day up. They attend sessions. At first, they're really freaked out that teachers are at school on a Saturday, number one, and that they're having a lot of fun on a Saturday at school. But they really enjoy coming to the Ed Camp. Ed Camps have really exploded. It started about 6 years ago. Now there's over 300 events a year easily. This is a logo from Ed Camp Boston, which is one of the oldest Ed Camps in the country. They just had their 6th annual event. They have 350 tickets, which sell out within hours. So if you get to go to Ed Camp Boston, you're very lucky, because it's hard to get into. So David Weinberger from Harvard said that the smartest person in the room is the room itself. Whoever shows up, our collective minds coming together to solve problems and to talk through our professional development, it's a great feeling. So if you are interested in attending an Ed Camp, if you've never been to one, and I swear, it's super fun, you should go to edcamp.org, which is the Ed Camp Foundation website, and it has a list of Ed Camps all over the country. But if you want to throw an Ed Camp yourself, either just for your district or for the area, they have a program called Ed Camp in a Box. So if you contact them, they will send you a box with all the supplies you need to have an Ed Camp. But tonight, we have made 3 homemade Ed Camp in a Box. So if you would like to get one of those boxes to take this type of professional development home to your district, please see me after the event and I will hook you up with one of those boxes. Thank you.
October 15th, let's be at Ed Camp Malden. Put it in your calendars now. Don't forget about it. But if you do forget, we're going to remind you on Twitter. Awesome. What if you teach ELL students, that's everyone in the room, go ahead and just scoot to the edge of your seat. You're going to want to hear this. Let's welcome Caitlin McLeod-Bluver and Nicole Table da Silva and Juliet Busing to the stage.
Good evening. I'm Nicole Da Silva. I teach at Boston International High School.
My name is Caitlin. I also teach at Boston International High School, where all of our students are recent immigrants.
My name is Juliet Busing. I teach humanities and AP English language at Urban Science Academy, a traditional Boston public high school.
We wanted to begin this Ed Talk with the story of Santiago. Santiago is a 17-year-old who immigrated to the country 3 years ago and started in the 8th grade. At first glance, Santiago seems to be making a lot of progress. He loves translating for newly arrived students. He can talk up any adult visitor to our class. But when it came to reading, it seemed like he would do anything to disrupt or escape the classroom. In October, when we gave a reading assessment, the reason for his problem became clear. He scored beginning reader, the same level as first graders just learning to read. Because really what he'd done is mastered how to pretend reading. In fact, he was the one who came up with the whiteboard sign. But year after year, Santiago has been able to pass his classes and do some of the grade level work. But our current literacy program is failing him. And not just him, because he's just one student. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of English language learners in the city who are not learning to read.
But the literacy problem is not just a problem for recent immigrants. It's also affecting students in our top English classes across the city. I teach open enrollment AP English language, and the students entering my course this year varied greatly in skill level. This is just a small sample. I have a junior who, with very poor spelling who writes in short, stilted sentences and disorganized paragraphs. A senior who's brilliant and writes in dense, thoughtful sentences, but really struggles to write on demand and under pressure, and often forgets to capitalize. And a junior with a reading disability who depends on audiobooks and often uses informal English in her formal writing. How could I design one course that would actually help all of these students learn how to write on a college level in just a year?
Students like Santiago and students in Juliet's class are not reading and writing at grade level, but that is not because they lack ambition or dedication. Our students speak 2 to 4 languages. They work 10 to 20, if not 40 hours a week. They are scholar athletes and debaters, honor roll students, and scholarship recipients, and they attend after school and Saturday school programming.
The data shows that the problem is clearly district-wide. 50% of English language learners in 3rd, 8th, and 10th grade fail or score needs improvement on the MCAS in 2014.
Likewise, in 2014, only 45% of BPS students received a passing score of 3 or higher on their AP exams. And for students of color, things are significantly worse, a stark 25% passing rate.
So clearly, looking at our current students and looking at this data, we know that there is a problem. We decided we needed to rethink what literacy instruction means at the high school level. We proposed a different, hybrid style of teaching. We started to ask ourselves, what if there was a way to fill the gaps our students have in fundamental literacy skills while still teaching demanding grade level content?
We wanted to explain now our reading program that we started this year. In October, we gave the SRI, the Scholastic Reading Inventory, to 150 9th and 10th graders at our school. 66% of those students scored at the 2nd grade reading level or below. Remember, those are students like Santiago, 17 and 2 years away from graduation.
Using this data, we divided our students into 3 different groups: a phonics group, a fluency group, and a reading strategies group. In these groups, students receive targeted, explicit instruction that matches their reading need. On the days when the students are not meeting with us, they continue to practice their skill through independent reading logs, flashcards, and online programs. Now, these types of small differentiated groups may not sound new to the elementary school teachers in the room, but they are simply not happening at the high school level, despite the need. Our dilemma was how to adapt this model to meet the needs of our high school students.
Our other dilemma was that there are so few programs nationwide to teach teenage immigrants how to learn English and how to read at the high school level. We wanted now to highlight some of our success. This is our first year in the program, but we're already seeing tremendous gains. Students are improving in their reading from word parts to literary analysis, whatever their need is. We wanted to highlight 3 students, starting with our case study from the beginning of the presentation. Santiago, who started a beginning reader, 4 months later was at the end of the 2nd grade reading level. Jessica, who's only been in the country for 14 months, jumped 3 grade levels this year.
Carlos also jumped 2 grade levels from the beginning of the year until now. He went from a student who would never pick up a book to now having completed an entire series of books at his new and improved level. In addition, our students are expressing joy and confidence about their reading in ways that we had not seen before. This is also translated to their other classes as well. Our students have always been curious about the world and the words around them, and now they have the tools to figure it out. They couldn't make it tonight, but they wanted to share with you what they thought of our program.
I know how to read and pronounce hard words that no one had ever taught me.
These skills are not babies, because if we can't read well, we won't be able to get a good job in our future.
I know how to read a long paragraph out aloud without stopping or reading like a robot.
English is very different from our first language, so we need to learn the little things too.
Now I'll explain how I helped my students grow as writers this year. Rather than craft a curriculum based on covering content or speeding through topical reading-centered units, I decided to focus my energy on direct writing instruction. I came up with a plan. First, I designed long units around one type of writing, assigning essentially the same assignment over and over again. And I don't mean that I assigned an essay that they took home and revised and brought back to me. I mean, I assigned the same paper 8 times. Don't worry, I used a lot of different prompts. But I realized that learning how to write takes a lot of time and practice. So I just decided I would take whatever time it took for students to actually master the skills we were working on. And that time meant a lot of things. It might mean an out-of-class conference. It might mean extra feedback on a paper. It might mean extending a unit several weeks so we could do the same paper again. And I know some of the teachers in the room are probably cringing because 8 papers, each student, 1 unit, is a lot of grading. And it is. This brings me to my second point. I developed a new way to look at student work. Grading was no longer a burdensome stack of boring papers I just had to get through. Rather, it became the most interesting research I was doing all day. I became an expert at finding patterns in student work so that when I graded a paragraph like this, what went through my mind was this. I scoured student work looking for the exact knowledge, information, patterns, practice that my students actually needed. And then I designed really specific writing lessons based on those findings. Things like how to use the preposition on, how to build a dense sentence, how to identify a fragment, how to incorporate quotations smoothly. These are little writer's skills, but they made a big difference. But there was a third thing I did as well. I centered the class on student voice. I had students write papers about what they wanted to write about. I've read papers on everything this year, from whether we should pay college athletes, to female body image issues, to the rebranding of Snapchat. I've read stories about shootouts on the streets of Lagos and breakups on the back of a bus, and probably the best review ever written of the TV show Scandal. Teenagers have opinions and experiences and creative ideas, and we should encourage them that authentic writing actually contains those things. Make every prompt your own, I tell my students, and they do, which is so cool, because I end up learning something new every time I grade. Besides my classroom being a really joyful place because of all these changes, the results of this program have actually been really impressive. When we first started our argument writing unit, for example, many of my students could not produce more than a single paragraph in the 40-minute time period allotted for an AP exam, and most of them had not answered the question correctly at all. None of them had written a passing essay. When we finished that unit, 19 of my students had produced passing essays of 5 or higher according to the AP grading scale. But Writing is not just about the numbers, right? So I wanted to show you what this writing growth looks like. You may remember I started this talk with an 11th grade student who used to be on an IEP for writing. This is an excerpt from one of the first pieces she ever turned into me. You can take a look. You might notice there are a lot of unintentional fragments. There's a lot of choppy, redundant sentences, redundant ideas, and there's a total lack of urgency to the thinking and the ideas in the paper. Now, I want you to listen to a more recent piece, and as you listen, pay attention to the rhythm and her use of repetition. Take a look at how she does use a fragment in this next one, but she does it intentionally, within a landscape of much stronger, more complex sentences. And notice how, through the course of her writing, she arrives at an original idea. That's what writing is, right? Take a listen.
America, land of the free and home of the brave. Students I know and go to school with live in rough neighborhoods where they have no guarantee of safety, walking through streets where friends, brothers, sisters, aunts, and uncles may have died. Yes, we are safe from other countries who pose a threat to us, but terrorists will always be terrorists. School shooters will always be school shooters. Murderers, rapists, and child abusers will always do what they want. So I more so disagree that man would rather be safe. As a human, I'd much rather my freedom because nobody can ensure my safety.
The coolest part, this student now tells me she wants to be a journalist when she grows up.
So where does this work leave us, and what does it look like for our future? For us, this looks like a continued effort to target the specific skills our students need. We believe in the power of our students. They are resilient, eager, and excited learners. This is not a dumbing down of the curriculum, but rather a smart, efficient effort to give our students the tools they need to be successful in their futures.
For the teachers in the room, reading is powerful. Writing is powerful. This is why we teach. We must tackle explicitly teaching, reading, and writing if we hope to empower our students with the tools they're going to need to be successful beyond high school. What if this presentation is the start of a dialogue around what it means to teach literacy within a rigorous curriculum at the secondary level?
For school and district leaders in the room, what if we all really commit to providing high-quality literacy instruction for all of our students? This work cannot fall on the shoulders of teachers alone, and it is certainly not a problem the three of us face in our classrooms or in our two schools alone. This is a grand task, and we need your help supporting our work, our growth as teachers, but mostly our students. We need the support, the time, and the structures to make this work feasible.
And for us as a city, we want to make sure that all of our students, including our Santiagos, are able to graduate with the skills they need to be this city's innovators and future leaders. We believe it is our collective responsibility to make sure that our students are becoming critical readers and strong writers. What if we start this work today?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's thank them one more time for encouraging their students to be resilient, creative, innovative thinkers. Next up, let's welcome to the stage Jenny Stasniak, who's going to grow our brains on how to inspire our students to be creative activists.
A little over 3 years ago, I was teaching the American Civil Rights Movement, and I had, there we go. I had on my board this iconic photograph, 1963, the March on Washington, thousands of people demonstrating their patriotism. Martin Luther King Jr. about to take the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and exclaim his dream for what America can be. A student raised her hand and said, "Mrs. Stasniak, I wish activism like that was still present today. And my immediate reaction was, it's all around us, how can you say that? And mind you, this was a little over 3 years ago, so this is before the Black Lives Matter movement began. This is before the most recent fervor surrounding the political election, which all you teachers can probably attest to, that students are feeling quite vocal about their opinions with this election. But within her remark was a very sincere sense of hopelessness. And in deciding how to best respond to her, I thought, how do I make her feel a sense of responsibility? How do I make her feel that she is part of activism, of achieving justice? How do I make her feel hope? I could tell her all of the amazing lives and stories of people who have devoted their lives to activism, who are devoting their lives to activism right now, or I could show her. With the initial support from Facing History and ourselves, I developed a project in which students would conduct interviews with people who have devoted their lives, currently in the past, to activism right here in Boston. And I applied and received a Margot Sternstrom Innovation Grant, which provided the funds for me to start Voices of Activism. My students would go out and conduct interviews. And we started with the Missionary Sisters of the Immaculate Conception, which are our group of sisters who live right on Mount Alvernia High School's campus. I thought that my students were super nervous about the first round of interviews, and I figured if we were going to get our feet wet, if they were going to make little mistakes here and there, I'd start them off with a pretty forgiving crowd. And from there, my students began to have really wonderful discussions in class. What are we curious about? What questions do we have? What systems are we curious about? And then we conducted research to find organizations right here in Boston that address those issues, that work to solve problems within society that have been met with activism. And we developed questions. What do we want to know? If we got to go to this organization, if we got to talk to these people, what do we want to ask them? And with the support of the most flexible school administration, I was actually able to take a small group of students out of school for either a morning or an afternoon, in one case on a school night, and using a set of school iPads, we conducted interviews and a free voice recording app on those iPads. Students sat down with people who work at these organizations in these groups, and they recorded those interviews. They learned more about their lives. In some cases, we also got to get our hands a little dirty, such as at Revision Urban Farm, in which after conducting interviews, we were able to help with their winter planting season. And although we were fortunate enough to conduct this project using iPads, a couple of times technology failed us, as technology sometimes does fail us, and we resorted to the basic tools of any interview, a pen and paper. And in one case, we had to re-record an entire interview using Skype, but we were able to get that audio some way, somehow. With the experience of the day, the interviews themselves, we then took it a step further. How do we share what we've done? We built a website. The website is called voicesofactivism.org. You can actually go to the website. You can read and learn more about every organization that we went to. You can listen to the audio from all of the interviews, as well as read a student reflection. How did she feel hearing this story? What is this person's story? And powerful quotations that she felt really summed up the main message of that interview. And at the end of every interview, no matter where we were, no matter what organization we were interviewing, we always ended with the same question. What is activism? And despite the fact that we were at a variety of different organizations that addressed a plethora of different societal issues, without fail, within every response, were themes of responsibility, themes of justice, and themes of hope. As my students unraveled these stories, these local stories, some other pretty amazing things began to happen. Now I know I got to take them out of school, but they had a lot of fun, and I know it wasn't just because they got to miss class. But by the end of this project, these students became like a little family, 11th and 12th graders who weren't necessarily friends beforehand. We had a lot of fun. I also found that whatever stereotypes, whatever misconceptions my students had about these workers or the populations they worked with, all of a sudden, those stereotypes, those barriers of judgment began to crumble. And instead, they were replaced with relationships based on empathy, understanding, as well as a deeper curiosity. I found that as my students learned more, they began to question more. Why is it that when we interviewed a group of ex-convicts who are transitioning back into society, why is it that legally we are not allowed to post those interviews online? Those questions is what I was unprepared for, but what, as a teacher, amazed me. On our last site visit of the first year doing this project, we went to a group called Prison and After, in which the girls got to interview workers at this group who work with men transitioning out of prison. And besides just conducting the interviews, we were able to eat a meal together. We formed a circle. We held hands. We prayed. And then we broke bread together. And this was a very transformative experience, not only for my students, but for myself as a teacher being witness to this encounter. And perhaps my students can say it a little better than me.
Everyday people participate in activism, and it's amazing to see how just normal people are speaking up for what they believe in and what is right. It put me in situations where I got to feel what other people feel and the emotions that and compassion that these people have to help one another.
I felt more of empathy than sympathy for them because I could feel with them when I got to talk with them and listen to their stories and know why they were struggling.
I got to know more about their struggles, and I didn't necessarily judge them or not know how they felt to some extent.
It broke barriers, and I liked how we got to pray and hold hands together before we ate because I felt very peaceful, and it was happy to be equal. It shows me that I need to be more courageous in order to stick up for my beliefs, and that it's okay to do that, and don't be afraid to do that because it actually makes a difference.
What started as a project, not only in response to my students' remark about activism today, but also a project very much grounded and rooted in developing and strengthening academic skills, conducting research, formulating questions, conducting an interview, listening, extracting important information, writing through reflection. All of those skills that developed and that main target, it turned into such a more powerful experience of building empathy among students in my classroom, in a history classroom. So what is activism? As my students and I discovered through doing Voices of Activism, activism is responsibility, it's justice, and activism is hope. Hope that one day things can change, and our voices will be the ones to change them. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all of our presenters and to our wonderful MC, Jeremy. Again, my name is Elizabeth Pauley, and at this point in the evening, we had hoped to share some remarks from Dr. Tommy Chang, who was unfortunately called away at the last moment, but he is sincerely disappointed, as I know all of you now know, having been here. He's sincerely disappointed to miss this amazing event. We do this EdTalks every year, and I can say with all honesty, this was by far our best one yet. So thank you all. And of course, the only speaker tonight who needs to use notes is the person who has been planning this for a year. So I hope you'll forgive me that I'm going to keep these as a crutch. As I mentioned in the beginning, the Boston Foundation hosts this event during Teacher Appreciation Week because we believe the best way to celebrate the work of the incredible teachers in our city is to hear directly from them and to hear their experience so we can celebrate and elevate their voices. The presenters you heard this evening were wonderful, and they represent only a fraction of the amazing teachers in our city and region. The 2016 Massachusetts Teacher of the Year is a Boston Public Schools teacher. She, in fact, was a former member of the Boston Foundation Teacher Advisory Board. And the newly announced Massachusetts 2017 Teacher of the Year is also a teacher in Boston teaching at the Convening Academy Charter School. We've had the Teacher of the Year from Boston in 2012 and 2007 and many times before that. So we know there are amazing teachers in this city. And in fact, there are amazing teachers in this room. So if you are a teacher, would you please stand up so we can recognize you? Thank you all for being here tonight on a school night, and thank you all for the work that you do every day. I know Boston is better for the work that you do. If you are a teacher and you want to continue the conversation, at the end of the evening, please see Maria Fenwick or myself. With support from the Nellie May Education Foundation and the Gates Foundation, we'll be convening a group of teachers tomorrow from 2 to 6 here to continue the conversation. All are welcome, so just let us know if you plan to attend. For those of you who may have attended an EdTalks in the past, you know that at this point in the evening, we have had members of the Teacher Advisory Board come up on stage and award a grant to an organization that they have selected from among all the nonprofit organizations in Boston. And this year, the Teacher Advisory Board opted to do something a little different and I think very exciting. It is my pleasure to announce that they have opted to give $2,500 mini grants to each of the presenters to continue their work. So we look forward to telling you about what they did with that funding next year at the EdTalks, save the date, May 4th, 2017. But now I know that you're experts on Twitter, so you can also follow them on Twitter as they tweet about their work. So the next thing I'm going to do is invite the teachers up for a certificate of appreciation. But before I do, while I still have everyone's attention, I need to do some thank yous because this event could not happen without a village of people supporting the work here. First, thank you to our MC, Jeremy Collier. We're so grateful to you for tying it all together and keeping the energy in the room high in between the presentations. So thank you. You did an excellent job, and make sure you save the date for next year too. Thank you to the Gates Foundation for bringing a number of us together at the Elevating and Celebrating Effective Teachers in Teaching Conference, for their partnership in this work, for their sponsorship of the event tomorrow, and their belief in elevating teachers and teacher leadership. We also have so many people in this room who have helped, including our AV team, led ably by Joe Trudeau in the back, who keeps us looking and sounding good. Thank you, Joe and Adam. This was a effort of the entire staff of the Boston Foundation who pitched in heroically. There was Lynette Best, who made all of the logistics go smoothly, even on crutches, and her team of Alina, Corrine, Rose, Laura, Celia, and Liz Walzak. The entire education team served as pit crew today. So Erica Steves, John Griffin, Antonia Owens, and of course Lynette. We had improv training for the presenters from Laura Godine, who is a colleague here. And of course, none of this would happen without our amazing consultant from the Talk to Teachers organization, Maria Fenwick, who thinks of big and small details all year long. So thank you all for putting on what I think was a spectacular evening. Finally, I'd like to invite the presenters up on stage to receive a certificate of appreciation. They signed up to do this with the promise of only an occasional slice of pizza, and they worked during their lunches at school, after school, and on weekends to really pull together what I think was an amazing set of presentations. So without further ado, I'd like Abby Dick to join me. Thank you. And why don't you? Jeffrey Parks and Michael O'Halloran. Thank you. Colleen Labby. Next, we have the thinking and writing team. Oh, I'll shake Alice Larimore, Marcus Penny, Katie Ramone, Kat Atkins-Pattinson, and Randall Wilkinson. Next, we have Caitlin McLeod-Bluver, Nicole Tabolt da Silva, and Juliet Busing. And finally, Jenny Stasiak. Please join us. This is our team, our amazing presenters. They will be out front Ed Camp style at some of the high tops if any of you want to follow up with them over dessert and a glass of wine. Thank you all for coming. And remember, May 4th, 2017. Stay tuned. Thank you.